We'll reconvene the meeting of the Montgomery County Commissioners. This is the 18th day of July 2017. It is just a little bit past 6. Welcome to everyone that's here. We're certainly glad you're here. We welcome you to our meeting. And the first thing on our agenda is we have our resident prayer into tonight, and that's Miss Belinda. And Belinda, if you'd come forward, Miss Belinda Stewart, and have the invocation for us. She's in-house.
Beyond that, Lord, give us understanding. You tell us to not lean on our own understanding, but in all our ways acknowledge you, and you'll direct our paths. And so, God, that's what we desire. So, Lord, we ask that you would lead, guide, direct us, and keep your hand of protection on us. In the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, we ask these things. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And folks, it is good to have Commissioner Copeland back, a person that's never misses a function that we have had to miss the last 2 meetings. And for those who don't know, most of you do, he is battling cancer at the time right now. Glad to see him back in the meeting. And we want to keep Commissioner Copeland in our prayers, certainly, and we're glad to have you back. Right. Thank you. Yeah, we missed you. Mr. Manager, if you'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
My pleasure. If you are able, please rise and join us in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
A motion from Commissioner Matheny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Copeland. Or any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And before the county manager gives us the procedure, the rules and procedures of public forum, it's going to something you need to know is we've got several things on the agenda tonight that will allow the public to speak. We have a public hearing as Board of Commissioners, and then we've got 3 hearings where we have to go quasi-judicial. We will not leave the room. It'll be the same people you see now, but we turn into the Board of Adjustments, which is required in counties when we have some of the requests for variances like we have tonight. Those are quasi-judicial hearings that the people involved can actually present evidence to us as Board of Adjustments. In those particular hearings, the only thing we will hear is that it has to do with those particular matters. The public forum, however, you can speak with us if you choose to, whether you've signed up or not, about anything you want to talk to us about. And that is what we're going to have next, is the public forum. That will be the only public forum of the evening that will allow you to speak on any matter you wish to speak on. The other items where you see public hearings will only allow the evidence to be placed in this quasi-judicial hearings of Board of Adjustments, and anybody can, of course, speak to the commissioners, as we'll be when it comes to about the property for the new high school, and you'll hear about those when we get to them. So that being said, Mr. Manager, if you'll let us know about the rules of procedure about the public forum.
Chairman, I'd be delighted to. The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to comment on county business or items on the Board of Commissioners agenda. This period shall not serve as a forum for debate with the County Board of Commissioners. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the board and not to staff, audience, or the media. The chairman will open the public comment period. Any person who wishes to speak shall approach the podium and announce his or her name and physical address for the record prior to making any comments. Any citizen desiring to comment on a matter of public interest within the authority of the Board of Commissioners to legislate in an open meeting shall be allocated 3 minutes time. Citizens may yield their time on a specific topic by utilizing no more than 2 citizens' time slots. This will allow, if you have 2 people to donate their 3 minutes, 1 person up to 9 minutes. The county manager, shall notify the chairman upon the expiration of the allocated time.
Okay. Now, do we have anyone who'd like to speak at the public forum tonight? Again, this is not the time for the Board of Adjustments hearings about the variances or about the acquisition of property, in which the county manager will explain as it pertains to our new high school project. Anybody like to speak at the public forum? Come forward, and Mr. Hudson, if you'll give your name and address prior to. And we will not start we will not start the clock on anyone who speaks at the public forum until they give their name and address. We won't let that be a part of their time.
My name is Ray Hudson. I live at 670 Deerfield Road.
Troy or Mount Gilead?
Mount Gilead.
Okay, thank you.
First, I want to thank the county board. The session I just said when I knew y'all had a difficult job, it made me appreciate how much more difficult it was than I anticipated. This whole ordeal has been difficult. Last week, I heard y'all, with as much politeness as you could. There was so much sugar in it, my diabetes score went up. I suspect everybody in the county did. You politely and respectfully asked the Warren Fire Department to move those Confederate flags. What we got out of that was more Confederate flags. I didn't think it worked, but I respected you. We want to try the peaceful, get-along approach as much as we can. I've worked with many of you. I have tremendous respect for Mr. Morton. I've seen him as clerk of court, tremendous professionalism. I've known you for years, Mr. Morris. Mr. Copeland, I know you're dedicated to this county. Mr. Matheny, I think you're the next Eisenhower. Mr. Crisco, you're a good basketball player. But on this letter you've written, I would earnestly ask you to put an expiration date and a time on this. They spat on us. That was wrong. We expect our county officials and firemen are supposed to be heroes. The men that died in 9/11, they weren't talking about a Confederate flag or anything. They just went up that building. And that's what we expect. I expect our police officers, our firemen to be heroes. And that's a matter of heart and who you're dedicated to. The Confederate flag doesn't fit that. I'm not going to go into that spill again. We know it's wrong. You do too. I would just respectfully ask you to put a return date on this. Let's end this. Let's end it. It's not going to be any easier a week from now, a month from now, or 6 months. If they want to do it and take the flag down, great. That's what I hope that happens. If they don't, let's get about building a better fire department and doing what the people need. But this is unacceptable. And you're talking about, I heard you talking about economic expansion. That's the wrong image for the county, and it's substantively wrong, and I won't take any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else? If not, I'm going to close the public forum and we'll move on with our agenda. The next thing on our agenda tonight is the approval of the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
We've got a motion from Commissioner Copeland. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Matheny. Are there any discussion on the consent agenda? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have a series of public hearings, the first of which will act as the Board of Commissioners, and then the 3 following will go in as far as Board of Adjustments. Our first public hearing, which will be in as we speak right now, has to do with the acquisition of property for the new high school. And Mr. Manager.
Chairman, thank you. North Carolina General Statute requires the Board of Commissioners to hold a public hearing for public comment on the acquisition of property. This public hearing is for the acquisition of property for the new Central High School, Montgomery County Central High School. The hearing is required, but in this sense, the county is not purchasing any property. The property where the new high school is going to be built beside Montgomery Community College was donated for that reason back in the 60s, and you'll see on the screens here some renderings of the high school. The Board of County Commissioners approved the financing to build a central high school and to close the 2 existing east and west Montgomery high schools last year. We are moving forward with that plan. We are starting, as you'll see down in the county manager's report, if you have a copy of the agenda, they are going to approve the site work package. And so they will start the rough grading of that in a couple of months. And we're hoping to open this new high school in July or in August of 2019. So we're very excited about that project. As part of the process for financing, the county has acquired a USDA, United States Department of Agriculture loan at 2.75% interest for 40 years, in the amount of roughly $70 million to construct this new high school. It will have a career and technical education center that will be shared with Montgomery Community College. It is a career and technical education centered high school, and so kids will see a pathway to careers. It'll host robotics, machining, health and science in this combined facility. So we're very excited about that project. But again, as part of the financing, the county has to have the property put in their name. The property is currently owned and deeded to the Montgomery County Board of Education. And so the Board of Education is deeding the property over to the county so the county can construct the building and finance it as part of that process. And so even though the county is not paying any money for this property, a public hearing is still required since it will now be transferred into the name of the county. Included in the board packet is the resolution and the deed that will make this transaction happen. But Chairman, all we need is to open the public comment period to see if anyone wants to comment on the acquisition of this property. Again, the board has already held 2 public hearings about the high school proper and the financing, and so that issue in itself has been resolved.
Okay. First of all, any questions or comments from commissioners, management? If not, would anybody from the general public in attendance tonight wish to speak on this particular issue? If not, then all we need is the action. Is that correct?
Action to acquire the property for the construction of the Montgomery Central High School.
Do we have a motion? What's the pleasure of the board? Have a motion to acquire the property from the Board of Education for the Central High School.
Move to acquire the property for the new Central High School from the Board of Education.
Have a motion from Commissioner Matheny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Wooten. Are there any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. At this point, we are going to recess the session of county commissioners and open up a session of the Montgomery County Board of Adjustments. And the purpose of this is to have 3 public hearings as it relates to variance requests from the 3 folks that are on our agenda. Want to remind the people that plan to speak, if anyone does, that this is a quasi-judicial hearing, that there is certain criteria that in the judgment of the commissioners that have to be met. I think there's actually 6 different items that have to be met. All 6 of them do. We will ask the county planner to come up, and we'll take these one by one. We'll ask the county planner to come up and give us a summary of the requests. Then we'll hear from any evidence or anything that the people who are requesting these variants want to talk with us about. It is a time you can put on evidence, and then secondly, anybody from the general public who has evidence that they want to put on about these properties, and then we'll allow anyone who wants to speak about it to come up and speak with us. So I know that sounds long and complicated, but we'll walk you through it. So Mr. Planner, if you'll come up and talk with us about this particular one is the acquisition of property. The variance that has to do with the Osborne matter.
Yes, sir. As a point of clarification, we did discuss during the work session the necessary 4/5 vote. We are extremely blessed to have Commissioner Copeland on the sir. So the vote is 4 votes, but it no longer need to be unanimous.
So instead of majority, so everybody understands and for the record, instead of a simple majority, as a lot of things are, this had to be 4/5, which would be whichever 4 people would have to approve or disapprove. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The first request tonight is VR 03-2017. Mr. Steve Osborne, on behalf of his parents, John H. and Doris H. Osborne, is requesting an 18-foot, 6-inch front yard setback variance. The property is located at 101 Dogwood Lane in Mount Gilead, North Carolina, 27306. The parcel identification number is 6574-1692-6537. The legal description is Lot 31, Map 5 of the Fairway Shores subdivision. The property itself is currently zoned as Residential 1. All surrounding properties are similarly zoned Residential 1. All property owners nearby, adjacent, and adjoining have been notified and required by law. The property is not located within a floodplain hazard area. It is exempt from watershed regulation as the property is less than 1 acre in size. Water is provided by the county, and sewage disposal is provided by a private septic tank. Attachment 9, included in the agenda packet, details the existing septic system. Article 6, Section 3.2 of the county zoning ordinance establishes 6 findings of fact that must be made for the zoning board to approve of the variance request. The applicant's situation must meet all 6 conditions. The staff report included in the agenda packet details the conditions. A copy of the staff report is available on the county website for public review. The conditions are as follows. Item 1, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or buildings involved, and which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the same district. The required application included in the agenda packet filled out by the applicant has the applicant's position statement included. Staff reviewed the documents and the following statement. Roads in Fairway Shores do have an uncommon 60-foot right-of-way. This 60-foot right-of-way is typically seen on much more heavily traveled roads. Willis Bridge Road does have a 60-foot right-of-way. NC 109 has a 60-foot right-of-way. However, the issue is that 60-foot right-of-way is not unique to this particular lot, as the right-of-way applies to the entirety of Fairway Shores as well as Emerald Shores to the north. I also believe Carolina Forest and Wood Run have a similar right-of-way. Those are private roads, however, a little different in this situation. These are DOT maintained in Fairway Shores. There is an existing retaining wall with specific structural limitations. Those have been documented by the applicant. That is included in the agenda packet. The existing retaining wall will be discussed further in the presentation, and the existing septic system is at the rear of the property. That report is included in the packet as well. Item 2, that literal interpretation of the provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of the ordinance. Non-conforming uses may not be used as grounds to grant various requests. The particular lot does have an existing retaining wall, which appears to limit building area. The structural limitations of the wall have been detailed by the applicant. However, there is no conclusive evidence that has been provided that demonstrates continued use of the particular construction product Versalot block is necessary. If the construction method of the wall is to change, it may be suitable to move the proposed structure closer to the wall and significantly reduce the encroachment on the setback. Item 3, that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. The 60-foot right-of-way and existing septic system are of no fault of the applicant. Both predate the purchase of the home by the Osbornes. However, the 60-foot right-of-way does not appear to be a unique feature to this lot as previously described. The rest of Fairway Shores also has a similar right-of-way of 60 feet. The construction material of the wall was chosen at the time of construction by the applicant. The structural limitations of the product are clearly known. However, the use of the product or construction methods of other products or construction methods may have allowed the wall to actually bear structural support for the proposed structure. Item 4, that granting the variance request will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance to other land structures or buildings in this district. Item 5, the requested variance will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or to the general welfare. Attachment 8 does detail a sample design of the structure, which is similar in appearance to the existing single-family home. However, there has been no documentation provided regarding any injurious to the neighborhood or general welfare. However, as I have stated, all property owners have been notified of the request, and I did receive a phone call from the gentleman across the street, but he was more curious about the request, not so much about coming to the meeting. He may be here. I did addition, the minimum distance to the existing retaining wall while utilizing the First Select product is 10 feet. The proposed construction is 13 feet from that wall. To summarize, the existing property is characterized by an uncommon 60-foot right-of-way for the county as a whole. However, the entire right-of-way is uniform throughout Fairway Shores and Emerald Shores, and several other subdivisions previously mentioned. Structural limitations of the existing wall have been provided, but no evidence has been provided to conclusively show the product is the only option available for the retaining wall. If the construction method is changed to a product that provides structural support for the proposed carport, the structure could potentially be moved back towards the wall, which would significantly reduce the setback from structure. Staff's available to answer any questions.
Questions from commissioners?
Andrew, what would be is the right-of-way from the center of the road or from the edge of the road?
It's from the center line of the road out, so 30 feet on either side of the road.
And what would be more typical of a road this size?
Typically about 40 feet is what we see.
40 feet?
So it would, in essence, only reduce the distance from the center line of the road by about 10 feet.
Other questions? Mr. Gayhagen, we may have some questions as the time moves on, but at this point we will ask the applicant if he would like to speak to this issue to come forward and present any evidence and talk with us. Is the applicant in? There you go, thank you. You Mr. Osborne? Yes, you give us your name and address first. You're not on the clock, so we want to listen to you.
Thank you.
We want to listen to what you got to say about this.
Steve Osborne, 735 Woodard Road in Concord, North Carolina. Chairman Morris, Commissioners, Mr. Wood, thank you very much for hearing our variance for the 101 Dogwood Lane. We bought the house, my parents bought the house in 1981. We did add the retaining wall and added on to the house about 9 or 10 years ago. What we wanted to do is add or construct, there's a picture in your packet, it's a half carport, half utility shed. And it's roughly 20 foot by 2 inches by 21 by 20 foot, 2 inches by 21 foot. The as Andrew stated, between the right of way and the retaining wall setback, we just don't have much room to do it. I think there's just when you look at the survey we provided, there's just a very little footprint that's left for us. I did speak with Justin Richardson with NCDOT, and Justin confirmed there's nothing on DOT's books to widen or realign Dogwood where it comes into Springwood. Anyway, if you know working with DOT, if it's not on your books, then it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. It just takes such a long time. We'll point out if approved, the carport will be 40 to 42 foot, depending on which side you look at from the edge of the street. So it's still pushed back quite a bit. The other thing, it is very consistent. If you go 150 foot in both directions, there's carports on Springwood and on Dogwood. They're also proximity to the road, such as ours, what we're proposing. If you drive around Springwood in both directions, there's numerous carports, outbuildings, structural sheds that are also much closer than what we're proposing. So we feel it is very consistent. I speak on the retaining wall. It is a Versalock product. The blocks that are used are the same blocks that can go up, I don't know how many foot, even much higher, 20, 30, 40 foot. So it's the heaviest structural block that they make. When we put it in, it also has geogrids, and I installed it. I've done construction for a long time. I've also done code enforcement. I don't do it every day, but I'm very versed in it. It's got geogrid that goes back 4 foot, and it's about every 2 foot high the geogrid goes back. Now, I'm not going to say if the engineer came up, the engineer would probably say, you could probably move that building closer. But it is the most structural block. We've had 0 problems whatsoever. A significant cut to take it out, to dig it out and come into the block. It just, between the building science, it just wouldn't be smart to encroach on that retaining wall and put hydraulic pressure on it, from the load of the building plus any landscaping behind, there's a picture in your packet, there's landscaping behind, that would only allow about 4 foot of landscaping to get in the rear door that was installed on the carport. Carport will be high quality, it'll be hard to board, roll-up doors, it'll be a very nice carport. And we'd like to do some remodeling on the cottage in the future, but this will kind of be the first step of this work. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
If the variance is approved, how far from the road center line would the structure be?
Road center line would be, and this is an estimate, because the road starts flaring out, it would be about 50 to 52 foot from the center line to the closest point of the structure. It's a good ways back.
And how much variance are you asking for?
It would be, with counting the overhang, it would be 18.5 foot on one side and 13.5 foot on the other side.
Well, I'm confused about if it's 18 feet variance, and it would be 50 feet from the center line of the road, and the setback is the right of way 60 feet. So it's 60 feet plus the setback for the county, I guess is the difference.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. From the center line to where the overhang would be.
Right, but I mean, the setback requirements, Andrew, are the right of way plus the county setback, right? The county setback is
30 feet.
30 feet. And the right of way is 60 feet on either side of the center line, is that right?
30 feet.
It would be 30 foot.
30 foot on either side.
So the 60 foot is the total right of way. Okay.
Other questions? Just to clear up, Mr. Gahagan, you don't have to get back up, but the 60-foot right-of-way is all of Emerald Shores, is that correct?
Fairway Shores.
I mean, not Emerald Shores, Fairway Shores. Okay, thank you. What about Emerald Shores? I asked that,
It's also
660. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay. All right, anyone else that would like to offer evidence on this particular matter to the Board of Adjustments? If not, anyone else would like to speak on this issue to the Board of Adjustments? Okay, now there's 6 findings that we've got to deal with on this matter, and any discussion about those among the commissioners prior to bringing this action? I know this is a hard one because we're looking at 18 feet, is that correct? And the right-of-way to me is uniform through the whole section. Am I right about that, Mr. Gahagan?
Correct.
Any other discussions? If not, is there any of the 6 findings of fact that any of the board feels that there is a violation or needs to be dealt with? Mr. McGahagan, anything else from you?
Would just like to clarify for the applicant's benefit and your own that typically I do not require or ask for the existing system report ahead of time. There is an additional cost for their department to come out and cite the system. However, in this particular case, I could not find an existing system report or anything in their files. So to conclusively determine where that septic system was to eliminate the rear of the property from any construction, I did ask that the applicant complete that process. And that document's on the screen now and included in the agenda packet. So I just wanted to clarify why I requested in this particular situation to have that.
And Chairman, I think for the record, if Andrew can go over each of the 6 findings of facts, it has to be documented by the board that the applicant did meet the criteria for each of those findings of fact.
Thank you.
Item 1, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or buildings involved, and which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that has been met.
And respectfully, Mr. Crisco, I happen to disagree because of the 60-foot right-of-way and that's applicable to all the Fairway Shores property. And again, respectfully, I disagree. But any other comment?
Item 2, that literal interpretation of the provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance.
I feel that that's been met. Other people on that property have carports and whatever.
Other comments? Okay, number 3.
Item 3, that these special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that is a point of contention in view of the fact that the construction method of the retaining wall was the choice of the applicant and is restricting the placement of the carport on the property.
Okay.
Item 4.
Any other
Sorry,
comments?
apologize.
Other comments? Okay, Mr. Gahagan.
Item 4, that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the sources of other land structures or buildings in the same district.
Comments? You know, well, one of the concerns I would have with that particular portion is the fact that this variance based on the right-of-way being too large might give the applicant a privilege that no other owner enjoys and it might even set a precedence if we continue, if we do this.
Item 5, the requested variance will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or general welfare.
Other than the fact that it may diminish the value of neighbors' properties, but it appears to me from what I've heard from the applicant that the structure shouldn't. I don't know if it would obstruct anything as far as views or not, but it appears that the construction is going to be adequate, but it could diminish the value of properties.
And item 6, the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the legal use of the land, building, and structure.
Again, Mr. Chairman, that goes back to the construction of the wall that under the circumstances indicated, and I think, Andrew, you also said it could be set 3 foot closer to the wall and meet the...
Yes, the minimum distance from the Versalock product to any sort of load-bearing structure would be 10 feet as provided by the applicant. The proposed structure is to be located 13 feet from that existing wall.
So moving it 3 feet closer to the wall, would that reduce the setback variance required?
Yes, sir, probably around 15 feet 6 inches for that.
I'm sorry?
15 feet 6 inches for that.
It would reduce to 15 feet, not,
Yes, sir.
not by 15.
Not by 15, no.
Other comments, questions?
Andrew, did you say there were other homes that were similar to this with the, I guess, the carports out as far as what this one will possibly be?
There are, yes, sir, but the ordinance does specifically prohibit non-conforming uses from being considered in granting variance. But there are many houses in similar situations like this, but those are typically constructed prior to all ordinance in place in that area of the county.
Mr. Crisco, anything else?
That's it.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Gay-Hagan. Okay, pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be good if we could grant this variance, but under the circumstances, I don't think that we have the legal authority to grant it in view of the construction material of the wall and the fact that other options may exist that would reduce the setback requirements. So I will move to disapprove the variance request.
Have a motion, Commissioner Matheny, to move to disapprove the variance request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Wooten. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? At 100%? Is that all five? Okay. Thank you. All right. The next item on our agenda is the request Is this Souders? Is that correct? Okay, thank you. Mr. Gay-Hagan.
The second item on the agenda tonight is BR 04 2017. Mr. Ivan Souders, on behalf of Eva and Derek Thompson, is requesting a 3-foot 4-inch rear yard setback variance. The property is located at 104 Anchor Drive in Gilead, North Carolina, 27306. The parcel identification number is 657411752673. This lot has been recombined as described by Plat Book F-182B and Deed Book 782, page 833. A copy of both of those documents have been included in your agenda packet. The parcel number may change slightly. That number is actually the centroid of the property, and if the lines change the property enough, that will change that measurement slightly. But I think the final recombination was a minimal amount of land, so it probably won't change. The property is currently zoned as residential 1. All surrounding properties are also zoned as residential 1. All property owners have been notified as required by law, adjacent and adjoining. The property is not located within a floodplain hazard area and is exempt from watershed regulation if the property is less than 1 acre in size. The water is provided by the county and sewage disposal is by a private septic tank. The property owners have secured an improvement permit and subsequent construction authorization from the Environmental Health Department, but they have not yet secured the final operation permit for that system. Article 6, Section 3.2 of the County Zoning Ordinance establishes 6 findings of fact that must be made before the governing board can approve a variance request. Again, the applicant's situation must meet all 6 conditions. The staff report included in the agenda packet details these conditions. A copy of the staff report is available on the county website for review as well. The conditions are that special conditions and circumstances exist, which are peculiar to the land structure building involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district. The applicant statements are shown in the supplied application of the agenda packet. Staff comments are that the natural features of the property and placement of the existing home do not appear to preclude a covered deck of similar size from being placed on the property in conformance with the zoning code. While the home was constructed prior to the current ownership, its location and alignment do not preclude the deck from being constructed concurrent with the zoning code. The subject lot does not appear to have any unique land-based hardships, and the lot is actually considerably larger than other properties in the immediate area due to multiple recombinations of property. Item 2, that literal interpretations of the provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of the ordinance. The proposed deck could be constructed with a minor alteration and still be completely utilized for the intended purpose. Item 3, that special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. The property owner, Derek K. Thompson, was approved for a building and zoning permit pursuant to a site plan drafted by George Simpson, license number L3491. That site plan is included in the agenda packet as well as the copy of the building permit application and zoning permit. The site plan that was included indicates that all proposed additions would be constructed within full compliance of all required setbacks. Further, the setback line was clearly demarcated in the field, While the home was indeed constructed in 1971 prior to the current property owners, that does not preclude new additions from meeting the current code. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance to other land structures or buildings in the same district. The permit was approved based on those plans provided that showed complete compliance with the zoning code. While any property owner is free to apply for a variance request, the hardship must not be self-caused. Item 5, the requested variance will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or general welfare. And item 6, the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the legal use of the land, building, and structure. Squaring of the floor of the deck does not constitute a minimum variance. The deck could have continued at the same angle as the contour line and still have met the zoning code requirements. Angling the deck or cutting the deck back at this portion of the property would completely preclude the need for a variance and still retain the use as a deck. To summarize, building permit number 3597 was issued pursuant to site plan and building plan submitted that indicated full compliance with the zoning setback. The property line was clearly marked on the property during construction and during my time out there to mark and take photographs of the property. Variance hardships must not be self-created. In this case, the variance appears to be self-imposed and should not be available for relief from the strict application of the zoning regulation. Alternatives are available to construct the deck in accordance with the required 10-foot setback. Further, it appears that approval of this request may grant special privilege to the property owner and could potentially set a precedent used by other property owners to request similar exceptions for incidents in the field. Staff's available for any questions that the board may have.
Questions from the board? Question I have, Mr. Gayhagen, is, and I think I heard you correctly when you said that the original application was in compliance.
Correct, yes, sir. It showed all compliance as drawn up by George Simpson, the licensed surveyor.
Okay. Other questions? We may have some more questions, okay? Is it Ms. Souders, or is he here? Come forward, please, sir. And if you will, for the record, state your name and address, Mr. Souders. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
My name is Alex Souders, and I live at 123 Anchor Drive in Mount Green.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman and board members, but just a little bit about the history of that. And he mentioned that the house was built in 1971 and was not built according to the law. They built it at an angle so they could have more water view, and that's why we're in this predicament that we're in right now. So the house originally was at 768 square feet, and we've added 2 rooms and a bath to that, which made it approximately 1,600 square feet, actually 1,567 square feet to be more correct. And the house already had the roof where the deck was. We need to expand the room, the house
Don't go anywhere. Commissioners, any questions?
On the,
Comments?
were you to cut the corner of the deck off, could you not build a roof to fit that?
We cannot square the roof. We could if we would cut the deck back several feet. But we could not square up the roof. It's a roof, we could not square it up to put the roof on.
Other questions? Anybody else? No, thank you, sir. Okay. Anyone would like to speak on this that has evidence to present? If not, anyone would just like to speak on this issue from the public? If not, Mr. Gayhagen, we can go over the findings of fact here. Any other commissioners, any other questions from Mr. Gayhagen or any of the folks?
Again, the applicant's situation must meet all 6 required findings of fact. Those conditions are item 1, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structures or buildings involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district.
Mr. Gayhagen, question again that I have, and then a comment. I think you told us that the original plans were in compliance.
Correct.
And that you actually, our inspections, maybe you visited the site and actually gave, I don't know if you drew a line, but you actually noted where the setback where the setback would be violated.
Yes, the line was, I believe, placed in the field by the licensed contractor. This is why we require surveys to be done on property this close to the property line to further confirm where construction can and cannot take place.
Yeah, and a concern I would have, and it's a concern that if a reasonable deck couldn't be built within the setbacks as originally designed, maybe. Okay. Anybody else? Anything else?
Well, what was the original design? They're saying that they can't put the roof on it.
I'm not sure if there was a construction error in the field or how that was, but the existing design is included by the exact date in the agenda packet under.
Well, maybe we could ask the applicant, what
Sure.
changed between
Yeah, Ms. Souderwood, can you come back up, please, or we have a question for you?
the approved plans that were in conformance and the plans of the actual construction? Mr. Gahagan said that the original building permit was for plans that were in conformance with setbacks. So what changed from those plans to the construction of the deck? Was the deck added or expanded or?
No, the deck was included. We did build a deck, and then when we got the deck built, we decided we wanted to put the roof over the deck and could not do it as it was set up with us being not in compliance with the setback. We just needed that 40 inches to do roof on the deck.
But the original plans did not show the deck exceeding the setback. So I'm just wondering if the plans were wrong or the construction was not in accordance with the plans. Or?
No, we decided to put the roof over the deck. That's what happened.
But I mean, the deck is what's over the setback.
Yeah, that is only set back 2 foot,
Okay, well,
and it's only set back 2 foot, just on the corner, not the whole deck, just the corner. And but it's 2 foot on the corner, nowhere else. And if we do get the variance, then we go out 40 inches, and so that it takes care of the overhang of the roof, but it'll only run about 10 foot, about 10, 11 foot.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Gay-Hagan.
I would like to comment briefly, if we could go to the site photographs that are included in the agenda package. The inspector, Junior Davis, did go out to the property and inspect the footer that was in the ground for the deck supports. However, if you look at the site photograph where the approximate setback line was drawn into that document, there was no way for the building inspector to know that the deck was actually going to be cantilevered out over that existing support, that the footer itself actually is within the setback and it's fine. It's acceptable. However, the deck actually extends past that support on the corner, approximately a foot to 2 feet, that the inspector would not have known until framing was on the
Thank you.
I believe we were on standard 2, was that correct, sir?
Yes.
Item 2, that the literal interpretation of the provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of the ordinance.
Any comments?
Well, strictly interpreted, I don't think that it would deprive the occupants, since they could have a deck, it just wouldn't be in accordance with the design that they ended up with.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Gay-Hagan?
Item 3, that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant.
You know, one of the things I think I read maybe in this particular portion of my packet was the mention of the house was built in 1971, but one of the concerns I may have about that is that it was constructed, I think, in 1971, but the deck's still not in compliance with the original information that was given to our department. Am I correct about that in 2017?
Yes, the site plan I was provided, indicated that there was full compliance on that.
And plus, they built it kind of calicling on the lot, so if it was like it should be, he said, for the view, if it was placed like it should have been, I don't think it would have been a problem.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Item 4, that granting the variance request will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance to other land structures or buildings in the same district.
Any comments? Again, I go back to the original deck design was in compliance, and still have some concerns about that. It may apply to this particular finding.
Item 5, the requested variance will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or general welfare.
I'm doing all the talking, Mr. Gay. But I don't have that for that particular, unless Duke Energy would have a problem, which owns the shoreline or controls the shoreline. I don't think there's a problem with that particular finding.
And they were notified as well as our request to not ever receive a reply from them.
Right, and again, I don't have a problem. I'm not speaking for all the commissioners, but I didn't see a problem.
And I believe Mr. Summers was correct on the setback for Duke Power, from what I understand is fine.
Yes.
And item 6, the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the legal use of the land, building, or structure.
Any comments, commissioners?
Well, I don't think the variance is required to make legal use of the land.
Any other questions? Comments from Mr. Gay-Hagan or Mr. Salvage?
Mr. Chairman, I think that a couple of problems. One is the key thing is that the finding of fact that the need for the variance was not caused by the applicant's own actions, which clearly it was, and two, that the construction proceeded without the variance. Notwithstanding that, on the other hand, it is a minimum variance that does not impinge on any other residence or landowner in the subdivision, and in fact does meet the Duke setback requirements. And I would be inclined to support the variance request.
And we have a motion, Mr. Matheny.
Yes, I'll move to grant the variance.
We have a motion from Commissioner Matheny to grant the variance. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, yeah.
Have a second from Commissioner Crisco. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And my vote is no, but the motion carries. 4/5, am I correct about that?
You're correct, sir.
Okay. And the next item on the agenda and is the Hedrick Creative Building. Is that correct, Mr. Gayhagen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Gayhagen.
The final request for variance tonight is VR 05-2017. Hedrick Creative Building LLC, on behalf of Terry L. and Kimberly and Sutton, is requesting a 16-foot front yard setback variance. The property is located at 1726 Lakeshore Drive, New London, North Carolina 28127. The parcel identification number is 6673-1155-0359. Further defined as lot 631 of the Baden Lake Estate subdivision, more commonly known as Lake Shore. The property is currently zoned as residential 1. All surrounding properties are similarly zoned residential 1. All property owners to adjacent and adjoining have been notified of the request as required by law. The property is not located within the floodplain hazard area. For the most part, the existing structure most likely is because it actually goes beyond the high water contour. I believe the applicant can say a little more on that. I think it's a built-in boathouse. But as a function of the construction of the new home, that structure would be removed. The property is serviced by water and sewer by the Handy Sanitary District. Article 6, Section 3.2 of the zoning ordinance establishes 6 findings of fact that must be made before the governing board can approve of the variance request. The applicant's situation must meet all 6 conditions. The staff report, including the agenda packet, details the conditions, and a copy of that's available on the county website for review. The conditions are that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or buildings involved, and which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district. Lot 631 is a narrow lot at 50 feet compared to today's standards with the minimum 80-foot lot width. However, that lot width is not unique just to lot 631. It is fairly standard throughout the Lakeshore subdivision and other subdivisions on Baden Lake and many on Lake Tillery as well. Item 2, that literal interpretation of the provisions of the ordinance to deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by properties in the same district under the terms of the ordinance. Existing non-conforming uses in the district may not be the basis for granting the variance request. We have had several variances on Baden Lake in the past few months, which have been approved. However, all of these have had clear, unique land-based hardships, such as existing drainage ways in the case of Mr. Mark Milligan, topography issues in our latest variance for the Brady's, or severely reduced lot size coupled with corner lot setbacks that essentially made the lot unbuildable for any sort of residential structure. In the case of Mr. Smith in Pine Haven Village. No such hardship appears to exist on lot 631. The lot is fairly standard compared to the rest of the lots in this district and other Lakeshore subdivisions. Item 3, that special conditions and circumstances do not result in the actions of the applicant. We have had several homes similar size and comparable lots recently constructed in Lakeshore subdivision. I have included a copy of all of those permits in the agenda packet. I believe there are 4 that I've included. Those homes did fit on the lot without the need for a variance request. Item 4, that granting the variance request will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance of other land structures or buildings in the same district. Item 5, the requested variance will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or to the general welfare. Included in the agenda packet were some site photographs to the left and right of the subject property. The adjoining homes immediately adjacent are set back considerably farther from the road than the proposed structure. Items the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the legal use of the land, building, or structure. I've not received any alternative building plans presented by the applicant to reduce or eliminate the setback encroachment. I'd like to go briefly back to item 5 just to comment that while those homes are set back considerably further, those property owners did not contact me in regards to the variance request, just to clarify that option. Just to summarize, the existing parcel is smaller than the current required lot size of 20,000 square feet. However, the feature is not unique to just this property. It is quite a similar feature to other properties along the lakefront throughout the county. There does not appear to be any additional land-based features that distinguish the lot from any other. Several similarly sized homes on comparably sized lots have recently been constructed in the area without the need for a variance, and no alternative plans have been presented to serve to reduce the size of the encroachment or to eliminate the encroachment entirely. Options do appear to exist, such as reducing the size of ancillary structures, like the proposed lakefront screen porch, or reducing the overall footprint of structure while potentially adding an additional story to retain the same square footage. One of the houses I talked about briefly for permits that we received did something similar. They actually have a 3-story home, slate bonus roof on the top to add that extra square footage. Staff's available to answer any questions the board may have on that.
Any questions? Commissioners, Mr. K. Hagan?
Currently a 1-story or a 2-story proposal?
It's a proposed 1-story with the basement.
And the, how far from the edge of the road would the front of the proposed house be?
16 feet is the encroachment, so 14 feet roughly. That includes the overhang. Originally, the request was for 15 feet. However, after talking with the applicant, it was determined that the overhang was not included in that measurement. So, we are unique in the fact that we do take setbacks from overhang.
And do you know what the setback of the houses to, if you were facing the houses to the right of the 2 houses to the right of the house? Or?
I'm not certain how far they're set back. You can see from the aerial photography provided in the agenda package that they're considerably farther back from the proposed structure. They're actually much more in line with the existing that's on the property now.
Okay. And the DOT right-of-way on this one is?
40 feet, I believe.
So the requirement is 30-foot setback from the
right-of-way where it turned.
So it'll be 50 feet from the center of the road.
It is a 40-foot right-of-way. That's detailed on attachment 3, where you can see the original subdivision plan of the property. Kind of small lettering, but it's down there at the bottom, lot 639. The 40-foot right-of-way on Lakeshore Drive.
Other questions? Okay, Mr. Gahagan, anything else?
Not at this time.
The applicant can come forward, please. And if you would state your name and address, and if you got someone with you, they're certainly welcome to.
All right.
Okay.
I'm Jason Hedrick with Hedrick Creative Building, 1311 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive in Lexington, North Carolina. And this is Mr. Sutton of the proposed property. I'm here nervous as can be, just looking for a little guidance on this.
Well, first of all, relax and just talk to us like it wasn't anybody here, and we'll be fine.
Okay. Well, what we're planning on doing, this is a narrow lot. We picked a narrow lot plan. All we're asking for, by the time we got 1,600 square foot footprint of the house, and then we wanted to add a carport on the roadside and a screen porch on the lake side, it just extended over the setback by 16 feet is what it is. We talked about maybe going up another story to get extra footage in the house that the owner needed. He has looked at 2-story plans. He doesn't want a 2-story plan because he wants to age in this home. And also that could affect views from the lots across the street. You know, we've got a 1-level house on the lot now, build weekender shacks, basically. Well, one neighbor to the right, he's got a double lot, so he had plenty of room to put his home. So basically, we're trying to clean up the look for the neighbors from the water, clean up the water side, and we're putting this variance on the road side, which is in keeping with the neighborhood, because if I can present a packet of pictures,
Sure.
bring those up.
You got enough for everybody?
I got one packet, we can look at one and pass it down.
Okay. That's the reason I ask.
Sorry about that, here's you got more.
Let me start these down there with Commissioner Crisco. And I guess, can we keep these after we're done for the record? Okay. And we're listening if you want to continue.
Okay, what the pictures,
Thank
what
you.
the pictures were showing, the property owners on the immediate, either right or left of this home do not have structures built within the setback. But there are multiple instances, probably more than what would you say, 20, maybe 30 instances down this road where people have carports built right off the side of the road, some within 10, 15 feet of the pavement. With our 16-foot setback, the 14-foot setback that we would have, and the 10-foot from the property line to the pavement, we would actually have 24 foot from the pavement to our new carport.
As far as the distances on the road, it's hard to say, hey, here's some newer ones.
Yeah, we got to get you on the record, so if you'd come up and give us your name, please. He's putting you on his evidence, so we'll let you.
All right, Gary Sutton.
Okay, yes, sir.
No, what I meant is the reference to those homes that are already maybe in violation of the current code. Some of those are very old homes and some are newer, so some of the pictures we provided for you were some of the newer instances of where maybe those structures are a little closer to the road.
I'm going to start sitting you up. Just stay there if you will.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're the landowner, I assume? That's it.
And in there, you'll notice there are several that are closer than 24 feet of what we're asking for. I feel like we're conforming with the neighborhood.
As far as the adjacent homes that are set further back, Jason said there's some of the original cabins around the lake. In fact, the house that was replaced was the original cabin that someone then built another house kind of around it. The original cabin, so that's one of the reasons we chose to take this action rather than try to refurbish that one.
Okay. Okay, hold on. Commissioners?
If you don't get the variance, what would be your backup plan?
Probably the carport. Maybe try to figure out some way to shorten it up. As Jason said, it's currently in terms of the transport, 1,600 foot, 2 bedroom. To get some additional space, respectful of this one.
Are you planning to keep the boathouse and?
No, sir. Well, there is a pier on the water. But that boathouse is the part that's brought that up. All of that will be gone. There will be nothing within the, I believe this is correct, in the survey. There's nothing inside the contour line.
So we will be canceling the lakeside. We have 20 feet that's built over the line on the lakeside. We're getting rid of that.
So you're right at the setback on the lakeside?
Yeah, right at the setback on the lakeside. We want to get rid of the boathouse. It's going to clean up the view, make it a lot nicer looking on the lakeside. And then we just want the variance on the street side, which will be in accordance with other properties on the side.
The house originally, this house originally had in that space for the carport, actually further towards the road, one of the portable metal carports. We prefer not to do that.
Other questions? Commissioners? Okay, anything else? Good.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Now, anyone from the public like to put on evidence or speak about this particular issue, the Board of Adjustments? If not, Mr. Gayhagen?
I would just like to comment briefly, the images submitted by the applicant, the property owner, they did submit those in my office, I believe, on Monday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to put those in the agenda packet because that packet had already been sent out. However, I did review the images, and one of those carports is actually Davidson County, but the rest appear to be in that district. Anyways, moving forward, again, there's the 6 findings of fact that have to be made. The applicant situation must meet all findings. The special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or buildings involved, which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district.
Comments, Commissioners? Mr. Gayhagen, my concern is that the lot appears to be the same size as the majority of lots there. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Most, if not all.
Yeah, the plat of record, indicates attachment 3 that has, this portion of Hayden Lake Estates, which, does a pretty good job of demonstrating that the majority of the lot sizes are very similar to this one.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Commissioners? Okay.
That literal interpretation of the provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance.
Well, it goes to, we can't consider non-conforming use, but as pointed out, many of the lots do have non-conforming use. I don't know.
Have we granted any variances? How long has it been? I mean, I know that some things are grandfathered, but from what in reading this particular package, I don't think we've granted any variances like since 2007, maybe. Is that correct?
Not in this particular area of the county. Pine Haven Village has had a few recently, and Dixie Shores has. Those are actually 2 different districts. Dixie Shores and Pine Haven Village are actually residential 2 zoning districts, but none in this particular subdivision, just zoning residential.
Okay, thank you.
Item 3, that special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think the circumstances result from actions of the applicant, other than the house design.
Item 4,
Fine, go ahead. Anybody else? Good. Thank you.
Item 4, that granting the variance request will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance, other land structures, or buildings in the same district.
We're going to grant him the variance would grant special circumstances to this situation compared to others.
And grandfathering, am I correct, is not grounds for giving additional variances. Am I correct about that?
No, sir. Now, I will note the zoning code does permit lakefront structures to be rebuilt in the exact same footprint if they are to be demolished or removed, but that's not applicable in this particular case because it's considered a different footprint. But, there could be some houses out there that were granted that ability to reconstruct in the same footprint as the existing structure if they were done, prior to 2007 or somewhere around there. We will keep building permit records for 60 years. Item 5, the request, did I read this one? I think
No.
we're on 4. The requested variance will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or general welfare.
I don't have an objection there. I don't. I think they're in compliance there.
And item 6, the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the legal use of the land, building, or structure.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that applies. I don't think the variance is necessary to enable the legal use of the property.
And additional floor plans could be proposed for.
In this case, it is a custom stick-built home, so it's not a modular set-in footprint. And one of the homes I've actually included in the agenda packet that was built was a similar floor plan by the same design.
Other properties, Mr. Gayhagen, this may have to do with one of the other findings we have to do, but when we talk about this, it came to, any of the other lots have similar size homes, the 50-foot, the lot same size?
Actually, where this home is going to be constructed, there are a few of the larger homes down that way, but the majority of the neighborhood is similar to what's there, slightly larger.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm familiar with that neighborhood, and there are a number of homes, and there appears to be several homes that have been built recently that don't meet setbacks. They may be 10 years old, but they don't look 10 years old. So they're very well maintained if they are. A couple of them are, that they have the pictures of that gray house with the white trim. I don't know when that was built.
Again, we do have the option for them to rebuild the same footprint, so that could have been one occurred.
Any other questions, commissioners, any comments? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gayhagen. Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve.
We got a motion from Commissioner Copeland to approve. Do we have a second? My guess is this motion will die for lack of a second. Am I correct? Do we have a motion? A second? Do we have a second from anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I think there are a lot of good attributes about this proposal, but I think the requested variance is greater than should be approved for this area.
Okay, done a second to Mr. Copeland's motion, so that motion died. Do we have a motion to deny?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny the request for variance.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second from Commissioner Wooten. Are there any discussion? Not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Thank you. That was one no. All right. All right, the next thing on our agenda is our manager's report, and the first thing that Mr. Woodard is going to be talking about is the board's position on the Confederate flag, and I think we have several people in the room that are on either side of this issue, and I'm going to do something a little bit unconventional, and I hope you'll, I know this is a very sensitive issue on both sides, and I'll go into that in some brief comments I'll make, but one of the things I want to do with the board's pleasure is that once that we have the manager's report on this, if anyone, again, I want to be very fair about this issue, and the commissioners here, if there's anyone in the room that would, again, and this is not on our agenda, it's something we don't generally do, but like to speak briefly, not a question and answer, not a debate, but just to speak, I would be glad to allow you to do that. We've had a turnout, and my guess is the majority of the folks here are for that. If the commissioners, is that okay with you? Okay, thank you. Mr. Wood.
Chairman, thank you. County Manager's Report, we have 3 action items listed on the agenda. I'm going to need to add a 4th that came up very late in the day today, but I'll get to that item in a second. The first action item is the board's position on the Confederate flag atop the URA Volunteer Fire Department. Included in the packet is a letter with the board's approval that will be mailed to all board members and volunteers of the URA Volunteer Fire Department. The letter was drafted as requested by the board after the last meeting of Board of Commissioners, at which the Democrat Party presented a resolution requesting action by the board against that flag. The request at the last board meeting was for me to contact each of the commissioners and work with them to gain a consensus opinion. Anyone that was present at the last meeting heard each of the commissioners speak, and they offered different perspectives to that. And the board asked me if I could draft a position that was in agreement with the majority of the board. That work was done through verbal communication as well as email correspondence with the board. As always, the Montgomery Herald and WMTG is included in any correspondence between myself and the board as a whole. I think the people of Montgomery County are very fortunate that they have a very deliberate board, a very educated board that does not make rash decisions and likes to look at all the different perspectives and consider all the opinions. And I will not read the letter. I think it's showing on the screens there, but it's certainly available on our website. If you'll pull up the board agenda, you'll see that item there. In that letter, I will mention, though, that the board certainly supports the First Amendment rights of the URA Volunteer Fire Department members. The board does take a position in opposition to the flag flying atop a building that is intended for fire service and is intended to be open to anyone who wants to volunteer. We all have our personal opinions. We should keep those opinions and be free with those opinions, but we should not adorn a space that is intended to serve the public with those personal opinions. And so in this letter, the board is asking the members of that volunteer fire department to start the conversations and start the discussions to understand those perspectives and not to adorn that building with personal opinions. And so with the board's approval, we will send that letter out to the volunteers and to the board members and start that dialogue, Chairman.
Okay, the first thing we'll do is have action on that particular matter, and then I'll ask if anybody wants to speak to us about this, because this particular matter is a request, and one of the things I would like to request, if it's amenable with the board, is that we would like a reply. Is a fair reply date 30 days for the board? Okay. You've all reviewed the letter and had time to review it in your package and discuss it and think about it. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Got a move to approve from Commissioner Copeland. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second from Commissioner Crisco. With any discussion? Not all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Now, any comments from the board?
Well, I'd just like to say that this letter is an intent for them, I guess the request for them to voluntarily remove it. It's not a, as I see it, a mandatory. I just like to say we have to have that fire service in that area, and I don't know what our other options are if they decide not to take it down, but I think the board is unanimous that we would like to see it come down, but I guess we'll just have to see what their decision is and go from there.
Anyone else?
Am I to understand that we're requesting the individual fireman to respond back to the board?
Fire department. Yes,
The fire department
Yes.
has said something.
Any other?
Mr.
I
Chairman,
just
I'm sorry.
like to say that Montgomery County is full of a lot of ordinary people who do extraordinary things, particularly the firemen. I have a passion for the fire department. They've done great things and saved many lives. The late Commissioner Edgar Morris and I worked diligently to make sure that the fire departments had what they needed to work with. And I think that we should be a little accommodating to each other. You know, nobody wants to deny anyone their heritage or whatever their opinions are, or force my opinion on anyone or whatever, but I think for the sacrifice of the county, we need to do what's best for the county. I need to be home right now in my recliner with my feet up, but this is very important to me, and this county is very important to me, and I would like all the citizens to have a like passion for Montgomery County, because we're on the way up, we're on the move, and we don't need anything to stagnate our growth and development.
Thank you. Ms. Matheny?
No, I was just going to say, I think our letter, though we didn't read it verbatim, emphasizes the right to free speech, the right to protect one's heritage and so on, but emphasizes that we're asking the fire department to remove the flag from the public, although privately owned but publicly supported, building that is the fire department property. I think it's a reasonable accommodation that we're asking for, and not asking the fire department to forego their individual First Amendment rights.
I want to say a thank you to a lot of people, and some people are sitting in this room, if I can see well. As a matter of fact, an old classmate I hadn't seen in a long. Anthony, good to see you. I hadn't seen you in a long time. Good to see you. Good to have you here. I have had, and I bet the commissioners have had, probably as much conversation from both sides of this issue. And what I've found is very passionate on both sides. It's a very passionate issue. But I want to tell you something that's happened. I have not had any problems talking with anybody that came to see me or call me as far as sitting down face to face and discussing this issue. It's been very civil and very professional, and I thank everybody. And not one cross word. And we've not agreed on everything that we've talked to, and all the people I've talked with, and a lot of these people were not had anything to do with the fire department. They just had opinions, and those opinions needed to be heard. Sometimes we agreed and disagreed, but we shook hands and left, and hopefully that's what we can do with this issue. I'm going to float an idea that don't have to be adhered to. And this is all I've got to say. I talked way too long last meeting, and I know I did. But one of the things that the company I worked for the last 45 years has paid me to do is solve problems. And a lot of those problems were large or were big. And one of the things that's required in our state when we have civil problems, and this is not a suit or civil issue, but the courts have been smart enough to have a mandatory thing in Superior Court called mediation. Mediation's when the two opposing parties that have differences in opinions or have differences, they don't have to dislike one another, but they have differences, sit down and talk to one another and try to settle it. And I have been to mediations where I was so chaffed going in and so passionate going in about our side of it that I dreaded going, that it was, there's no way we can make this work. I'm dug in and I'm not going to do anything. And I will tell you that other than one case in my whole many years, we settled at that sit-down mediation, and I learned a lot about what the other folks were thinking. And I learned that most of them were really good folks with the right ideas and all wanted to get the same place I did. We just had a different way of getting there. One of the things that make it work is some of the folks on both sides of this issue it's up to you, it's something I certainly can't mandate, but then the board can't mandate, but could sit down and talk and get to know one another and say, what are the real issues here? And learn about what the real issues are. If that may not work, and it may work, I don't know. But I know that the people that's talked to me are all, on both sides of the issue, good people. This is not a deal where anybody's right or wrong about being good people and what they think and being passionate about their beliefs. The issue should hopefully can be solved in a very civil and peaceful manner. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a great suggestion, and hopefully it can come to fruition. I think, like you said, that if both sides could understand what the real issues are. Frankly, I don't understand both sides of the issue as well as I should, maybe. But we would encourage that as possibly the next step in the process.
Okay. Anybody else? If not, Mr. Woodard, you can move on the agenda.
Okay, you were going to let the public.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Got so caught up talking that I didn't. Anyway, if anybody wants to, sorry about that, folks, I apologize. Anybody that wants to speak on this issue briefly, feel free to come and talk with us now. You're welcome. It's unconventional. We seldom, if ever, do this, but I know what this situation means to, no matter where you are on it, know what it means to you. Feel free to come talk with us right now. Okay, we'll close that opportunity and move on. Thank you.
Second action item is acceptance of the donation of the Main Street buildings by the First Bank Corporation. First Bank moved their headquarters several years ago and has closed or in the process of closing the branch office there. As we have discussed at many board retreats, that the county has space needs. The county has several areas like the cooperative extension and the courthouse that needs to be renovated. Those renovations are very difficult while people are working in those spaces, and so this donation allows us to meet some of our facility needs as we do repairs and renovations, and there's some other possibilities, maybe a more permanent move, but several departments that I want to bring together to get the input with. Mr. Hildreth and Kevin McNeil, our facility people, will of course look at the costs associated with renovations and repairs to the First Bank buildings to make them useful. So in essence, what I'm saying is we'll bring the whole team together, look at what our space needs are, look at how we can utilize this facility. The building's in excellent shape. We've had consultants come in for the roof and the structural and the air quality and et cetera, and everything checks out. First Bank has been generous enough to also donate $45,000 to go with the building for help us to maintain it. We certainly support First Bank's request that that be tax deductible. A donation to county government is not tax deductible. We make a contribution the county does to Market Montgomery, which is the nonprofit organization to promote businesses in Montgomery County. We give them $15,000 a year, and so we've asked First Bank to offset our costs and make that $15,000 a year contribution for 3 years to Market Montgomery, and the county will retain our money to go towards upkeep and repair of that facility. So again, a win-win. We certainly thank First Bank for thinking about the county function and thinking about growth and prosperity in our county. And so you have included in your packet from their attorney a letter that they would like to us engage into to accept this building.
Pleasure of the board.
Move to accept the First Bank donation to the buildings.
Have a motion of acceptance to accept from Commissioner Matheny. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second from Commissioner Crisco. Is there any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The third item is the acceptance of the site package work for the Montgomery Central High School. Earlier today in the work session, the Board of Commissioners reviewed the site package that would be the early grading for the construction of the new high school. We're looking to do the grading work and we're going to bid the construction of the high school separately. The reason for the early site work, one, was to try to control cost, that the general contractor looking to build the building may be put off by or worried about how much rock they may hit or how much grading, and so we decided to break the package up and do the rough site work to get it pad ready. The second reason we did that was timing. We want to move into the new high school, which you saw earlier on the screen, August of 2019. The architects and the Board of Ed are still working on the design plans and the construction drawings. We want to go ahead and get the site work prepared while that work's going forward. And so included in the packet is a letter to Mr. Alan Hart of the USDA. It is accepting the site work package that was prepared by Morrisburg Architects to move forward with the bidding process of the site work package.
Okay. We had an opportunity to discuss this in the work session today. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Crisco to approve. Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Wooten. Are there any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Wooten, Mr. Wooten.
Yes, and again, I apologize. I know we do not like to add items to the agenda after the agenda's been published. The packet has been published, but Rowan County suffered a 911 failure earlier today. The vendor that they're working with is not going to be able to provide a replacement for that station for a considerable amount of time. CenturyLink was working with them and informed them that Montgomery County, Brian and Robbie, had just replaced our workstations about 2 months ago in a routine upgrade. The station that we replaced was 5 years old. Of course, it operates 24/7. That station has no value to us and was scheduled to be recycled. Rowan County reached out to Mr. Helms and requested that the workstation be transferred to them so they could put it back in operation and get their center up and running tomorrow. It's a HP Z200 workstation, product BZ199US, ABA, serial number 2UA1071406. And so I am requesting that the board transfer that county property to Rowan County for use in their 911 center.
Any questions? Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion from Commissioner Copeland to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Matheny. Any discussion? And they will be picking this up and doing.
Yes, they will handle all the legwork there.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Last thing on my agenda, as always, is the reports from the staff and management of the county. We have in the room with us, as always, Stephanie, DSS Director, Robbie from EM 911, Molly from Cooperative Extension, Chris Hildreth, Andrew, CD from Finance, Blendon Misty, Renee from HR, Blind Helms from IT, and Vicki Manus from Tax. So, as always, I'm very proud the staff comes to these meetings to be involved, and they'll be glad to answer any questions about any of the reports included in the Board of Commissioners packet. And as always, these packets are available to the public online.
Commissioners, have any questions from staff?
Again, I'd like to compliment the staff and the manager for all the good work that they're doing, moving us forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate
Manager
it.
might mention what you mentioned to us in the work session about the USDA loan interest rate.
I will. We, of course, as part of the building construction of the new high school, trying to control costs. That's one of the reasons for the early site work package. Construction costs are climbing very rapidly. It's when things are good and counties are collecting revenue and people are out buying, and a lot of our revenue coming from sales tax that everybody goes to building, and that drives up the cost of building. But with interest rates going up, the county locked in at 2.75% interest on our 40-year loan for $70 million. The interest rate today with the USDA is 3.25%. That 0.5% difference would equate to $9.5 million more that the county would have had to pay if we would not have started this process over a year ago. And so costs are going up, but we, in some ways, hit it at a good time. So we will continue moving forward with that project. Very excited about it.
Anything else from the commissioners? If not, we apologize to those attending for the length of our meeting tonight, but as you saw, we had some Board of Adjustment items, which, for the record, Mr. Woodard, we came out of Board of Adjustments back into the, I don't know where I mentioned that or not, but right after our last Board of Adjustments hearing. And we appreciate all of you coming. Thank you for having your interest, and we appreciate you being loyal to our county. Anything else? The meeting is adjourned.